Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Leigh Fuge, and in this video today we're going to be talking about buying vintage guitars on eBay. So one of the main considerations when you're buying a vintage instrument in any shape or form is that you always want to try it out. But what if you buy it blind? So what I've done today is I've bought a vintage guitar. I haven't played it, it's in this box next to me right here. So we're going to open it up and see what I've bought. So what I believe that I've bought is a vintage Kramer guitar. I don't know exactly what year it's from. The guy that was selling it basically said 1980s. So that could mean anything. There's a 10-year period there of where this guitar could fit in. I can't find a great deal of information about this particular model online. It's sort of, you know, there's a few little bits and pieces around, but nothing super concrete that's given me much of an idea. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on it. The guitar cost me a grand total of £220, which is quite a good bargain, I hope. So what that means is I've basically bought a 40-year-old guitar for the price of, you know, an equivalent kind of starter model. So I've either gotten a great bargain here and it's going to be a great guitar, or it's going to be very bad and I'm going to regret spending that money. But I thought it would be really interesting to figure this out on camera and, you know, figure out, should we do this kind of stuff, you know, without trying it out? Should we buy guitars blind and hope for the best? Maybe if I was spending like 4 figures on it, I wouldn't have done this. But I've been after one of these for a while and, you know, at that price, it kind of made sense to take a stab at it. So before I open the box, we have to think about things that could potentially be wrong. So obviously this guitar is nearly 40 years old. There could be a multitude of problems with this. It could have, at a bare minimum, bad electronics. It could have, you know, some serious fret wear. There could be some structural damage to the guitar. There could be some headstock damage. There could be, you know, other wear and tear with tuning pegs or the bridge or anything else. Those are, you know, the sort of things that we would ideally see the guitar in person to basically work out, is this the deal for me and am I going to have to spend any money on it? So this is the risk when you're buying blind, because I really don't know. All I have is the pictures from the auction. I know there's a couple of chips in the body. That's okay, it's a 40-year-old guitar. I don't expect it to be mint condition. But I don't know any of the other stuff, so I don't know whether it works. I don't know what the frets are like. All I have is the seller's word that this is a good guitar in good condition. So I do want to say, if you're unsure about what you might be buying online, especially if you're buying blind, don't do it. It's not worth the risk if you don't really know what you're buying. I had a bit of an idea, but you know, it's still a risk. Even though I kind of knew what I was looking at, it's still a risk. So don't chance it if you can't afford to take the risk. Okay, so let's find out what I've bought. So as I said, this should be a Kramer. It's a Kramer called a 610, which is sort of like a Super Strat, but it's not one of their American series. It's actually an import. So it should be Korean or Japanese. Okay, so it's come with a hard case. This is obviously not a modern hard case. Is this the original case? I don't know. It's definitely an old school case though. It's got those really horrible kind of plastic corners on, but it feels somewhat sturdy. So here's the moment of truth. I'm gonna let you guys see this first. So this should be the right way up, I'm hoping. It looks like in the camera. So how does that look? Is the headstock intact? Okay. So, first impressions. It's there, it's all together. Whammy bar in the case. I was actually expecting a slightly different color. So in the images, it was kind of shown to be more of a silvery color, whereas this is sort of like a, I don't really know, it's sort of like a champagne gold with a bit of green in there, maybe a little bit of silver too. Quite an interesting color, but let's take a closer look. So put the case to one side. Okay, so I like it. It smells old, so it's definitely old. Anyone who's played a vintage guitar or owned a vintage guitar will know they have a very particular smell. This actually smells like a lot of old vinyl records that I have, so it's definitely, you know, it smells like the 1980s. So on the first inspection, looks pretty good. Everything is where it should be. There is no rear trem cavity cover. I don't really care about that. It's got Floyd Rose Special, a humbucker and 2 singles. The fretboard and the frets look pretty good. The frets don't look like they've had too much of a beating. They could do with a clean. They look a little bit, you know, used, but you know, nothing a quick once over won't fix. So as you can see, there's a couple of little scrapes and bumps along the edge of the body. That's probably the most significant one. And again, it's not even really showing up that well on the close cam because of the colour of the guitar, so you can't really see the scrapes and bumps too much. It's got the classic big Kramer headstock. It's got Floyd Rose Special. So yeah, all in all, it seems pretty good. The neck is straight, probably a bit too straight for my liking, but I like it. So we've got a serial number on the back, so I'm going to try and see if I can date this thing as well and figure out how old it is. So, let's put the whammy bar on, and I wonder if it's arrived in tune. I'm probably going to take a stab and say no. Not the worst, actually. It's not terribly out. A little bit flat, but I will give that a quick tune now. The neck is actually surprisingly thick for a Kramer. I've not really played many Kramers, so I didn't really know what to expect, but I was expecting a bit of a thinner neck. This is actually quite a substantial neck, and it's got the volute to there as well, which is great because this angled headstock obviously would be very prone to breakage if I dropped it. So this kind of helps reinforce the neck joint. And it's got the old school Floyd Rose thing where the bolts are in the back to hold the lock and nut in place. So this is actually a Kramer 610. The plate there under the sort of string retainer does say 610, but obviously it's pretty much obscured by all the stuff going on there as well. So I'm going to give it a quick tune up. So I don't know how long it's been since this thing was last tuned. So let's see how close it actually is. I was going to try and tune it then, and I'm on a Floyd Rose. So it's a little bit out, a little bit flat, but nothing too crazy. Okay, that is close enough for a quick first look. So what have we got here? We've got a bunch of different controls. We've got a 5-way switch, which will obviously control the pickups. So we've got the humbucker in the bridge position. You'll notice the bridge pickup is actually angled. This was really popular in the 80s because what this basically does is it slightly changes the tone of how a bridge pickup works. So when the pickup is straight across the strings, we get a really even response from the pickup. But by angling it this way, what we're actually doing is we're sort of accentuating the lows because we're actually moving the pickup further up the string. So obviously, as you know with pickups, the further up you go with them, the sort of deeper and the warmer the sound is, and the closer to the bridge we get, the brighter the sound is. So this angle, and this again is very common on Strats, this is what the Strat bridge pickup is angled, you get a brighter response on the high strings because we're closer to the bridge, and then more low end on the low strings because we're a bit further away. So that's quite cool. 5-way switch, as I said, will go between them. You know, obviously I've not played this guitar, but my first impression would be bridge. I don't know whether that's going to split it, so it'll be bridge and middle, middle on its own, middle and neck, and neck. Actually, this is a coil split switch, or it should be. It's either going to be a coil split or a boost of some sort. And we've got 3 controls. I'm going to say this is going to be the volume and probably tone controls. These are actually different knobs, and I don't think this is going to show up very well on the camera. But this knob here actually has a much bigger sort of texture than these. These are actually a closer sort of grip pattern to this one. So I'm guessing these two are the same thing, and this one is different. But we will find that out when we plug it in. It's got a Floyd Rose Special trem. Not sure if that's the original trem of the guitar. It does look, this could just be an age thing, but it does look like there's been some sort of maybe some routing going on there to accommodate this trim. Perhaps there's a different trim on there. Some of those cuts look a little bit blunt to me, but again, maybe just the way this particular guitar was made. So I think we should plug it in and see. I don't even know what it's made out of. I have no idea what the wood is. I have no idea what the neck radius is. Probably gonna say like a 12-inch. I have no idea what the neck material is. Probably maple with rosewood. This is anyone's guess. If anyone knows anything about 1980s Kramers, let me know what this body's going to be. It's quite heavy, quite dense, and really thick actually. I was, again, expecting much more of an ergonomic kind of thing. This is a real slab of a body, like sort of Telecaster territory here, and there's not really many carves other than this sort of belly cut at the back. The rest of it's pretty rough and ready. We've got this little forearm scoop, but for the most part it is a solid lump of wood. So let's have a listen to what this thing sounds like. I'm going to plug this in for the first time. Definitely needs some new strings, so the sound may be a little dead in parts. These strings are set in 9s, which I tend to play 10s, so they're a little bit loose for my taste, and they're definitely a little bit older than I would leave on a guitar. So yeah, if the sound is a little bit dead, that could also be a factor. But I'm quite excited. I'm quite excited to see what this is going to sound like. I love super strats. Anyone who knows me will know I've got a bit of an 80s sort of hair rock obsession, so this is going to be a very fun guitar to have in my collection, providing it works. So here's the moment of truth. It works, that's a good start. I should probably say I'm plugged into the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200, which is going straight into my interface via the Redbox DI, and I think I've got a impulse, an IR of a vintage 4x12 probably. So we'll just cycle through a couple of different tones. So I'm already set to the clean channel, so let's see what that sounds like. First impressions, not too bad. A little bit muddy, but again, definitely needs a setup. There's a little bit of noise from my computer. It's actually picking up a little bit of hum, so maybe there's some electrical work that can be done on this or some shielding. The pickups are actually set pretty low. The bridge pickup could definitely be raised up a little bit as well. I'm definitely going to give this a good once over. It's slightly flat, it's not perfectly in tune, but you know, for this first impression, who really cares? So what we really care about when we buy a guitar like this is what does it sound like overdriven. So I've got a bit of overdrive on now. I'm just going to play some 80s inspired stuff and change to the pickups. has definitely got some cool potential. I think it's got that great 80s rock sound, which I was expecting. So I didn't really solve the mystery of what all these things down here do. So let's find out. I'm going to say their tone control. Not for the bridge pickup. So let's go to the neck pickup. Okay, so the middle one is the neck pickup tone, and I'm going to guess that the bottom one is the middle pickup tone. That's pretty cool. That's almost got like a cocked wah kind of tone. Okay, so here is a little bit of an update actually. I have sent some photos of this to a good friend of mine who lives in Canada, and he knows quite a lot about vintage Kramers, but what he doesn't know, a guy that he knows will know. So I'm in a text conversation at the moment with two people who know quite a bit about these guitars, and they are basically giving me some feedback on what they think I bought. So this is really interesting because what I thought I bought was a Kramer 610. Didn't really know when it was from. 1980s at some point, 1980s something. The serial number, can't find much online about it, but all I know is it's an import from the 80s. So what I've been told, and this is where it gets really interesting, and this really starts to turn into a pretty cool bargain, is that this is most likely early 80s. So the date range I'm being given here is sort of 83 to 85, which is pretty cool. At some point in the early to mid 80s, Kramer were using a factory in Japan, which is owned by ESP. So ESP were making these Kramer guitars at that point, allegedly. So apparently, what I have here is a Japanese Kramer, which was made in the ESP factory, but the serial number dates it to an earlier period, not the period that it was made in the factory that it was made in, allegedly. So this is apparently based on the serial number at 81 to 83, but it's not. Apparently at that point they were using neck plates from other guitars on different guitars, bit of a confusing one. But apparently what the guy thinks I have is a Kramer that was made by ESP in Japan somewhere between 1983 and 1985 with an American Kramer neck. And apparently this block sort of logo here and the headstock shape apparently is a dead giveaway that it's an American neck. The neck feels really good. It does not feel like a cheap guitar. It's a really solid, definitely worn in, but really solid neck. It's a 5-piece neck, if that helps. If anyone knows anything about vintage Kramers, the neck is actually 3-piece, but there's an extra 2 pieces on the headstock. So it's like a 5-piece headstock, 3-piece neck. If anyone knows anything about that, let me know. But apparently what I've bought is exactly that. So it's half Japanese, half American. So I would say that's a pretty good bargain. I'm very pleased with that, and it's actually more than I was expecting. For the £220 that I paid for it, I was kind of expecting a bit of a, bit of a dog. I was expecting that it might not be the best guitar, maybe it would need quite a bit of work, but actually I'm very surprised. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that feedback from the guys that I've spoken to, that apparently this is actually not a bad guitar. So yeah, there we go. There's my vintage Kramer that I bought blind on eBay. So what do you guys think about this topic? Have any of you guys bought anything blind, and do you regret it? Or have you bought anything blind that you really love? And also, let's talk about vintage guitars. Have you bought anything old without playing it? Just because you can, and you can get something for a good bargain, doesn't always mean you should. And usually if something's too good to be true, it often is. Now, I have been very lucky with this. I think I got this for an exceptionally good price, and I was lucky that it's in the condition it's in and it's, you know, fully working. There's a little bit of noise from the electronics, kind of to be expected with the guitar of this age, and obviously it needs a setup. The action is way too low for me. It's got 9s on it, which I don't like, and the Floyd is not quite seated right, so with a bit of TLC, this is going to be a great guitar, I think. So keep an eye out for this in more videos, because you're going to be seeing this thing a lot more. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've enjoyed diving into the world of buying vintage guitars blind with me. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought. I'm just going to jam over a backing track now so we can hear this thing in a mix and just have a bit of fun, really, because why not? Let me know down below what you thought, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thanks so much for watching.